Good morning to those who woke up already today and with me. Um, we are going to wait a little bit since I did send it out late. And, I didn't do anything really flashy. Yep, we're meeting basically, and you're going to get me. I tried for the last 2 days to get other people. I'm also in Illinois, and the town of my birth, Lincoln, the only one christened by Lincoln himself. But my mama died on Tuesday, so I'm here for that. And I was there, I was there, and I am telling you, I'm so glad I was there for all of it. It was an amazing experience, and um, I'm so relieved for her and happy. Um, she's been on the planet, we figured out, with the reverse conception app. But that yeah, there's that too, right? There's one of those, right?
Yeah.
But that she has been on the planet for 100 years, so she made it.
Wow.
But 99 in October, but conception was end of January, probably early February. So anyway, so it's great to be with all of you this morning. Some of you might think I'm nuts for being here, but we're community, and of course I've been with community here, and at my brother's house and with family, and that feels good, and so being with you like this also feels good. And my mother would have it no other way. An amazing woman, but I get a lot of my my stuff, of course, I get from my mother. And so her faithfulness, tenacity, and obvious die hard, dare I say, but she was a ever ready, always going woman. So I'm here to honor her today. And so it's good to see all of you. Are there any announcements or things people want to bring up?
And if I might,
Really?
so I had on behalf of Sacred, I went to Bandera for a Bandera County interagency committee meeting, a grassroots effort to pull together the agencies that serve that are the nonprofits that serve the community in the area. We're blessed with a plethora of nonprofits working here in San Antonio. They're not. They have the reverse problem. But it was interesting to watch the community come together to try to talk about what the issues were and how to go address them. So what you're doing here, but on a scale of essentially, multiple counties, areas worth of things. We have challenges certainly to face. One of their biggest challenges is they don't have a lot of groups working in those areas. If you need food in Bandera County, you got to go to Utopia. Not that Utopia is a bad place to go to, it's just not where you are. So I think we need to be grateful for what we have here in spite of all the challenges to work with it. But as you were saying earlier about the value of community, that pulls that community together. It does.
And that's really the beauty too. It's like the benefits package, right, of collaborative work. Not only does more work get done, but you become community and you get relationships that you didn't have before, and it strengthens. Maybe one of the things that we need to think about doing, Billy, and all of us, is, to teach others how to do this.
Yes.
How does
Yes.
this work? And how can you do that, just begin? And how can you do that kind of simply? I was on a national call yesterday with clergy from across the country, trying to figure that out. And so, what we're doing and how we're living and what the world is, we have more in common than we're different, right?
Yeah.
So people are experiencing either the connections or the disconnections, the needs, we're all experiencing those things. And how do we go about that? And I'm, very proud and humbled at the same time that we've got that kind of movement in San Antonio. We've got sacred.org. We've got Bridges to Care. we've got Eco SA collaborative, bringing environmental groups together, lots of them, and we're going to need lots of them because the environment's a big thing. It's not a small thing. So we need to share that and somehow and be intentional about it. I mean, anyway, another conversation, but planting a thought. We were talking earlier while waiting for a few more people about ways that, and Kathy was mentioning AI, but ways of collecting articles and information. And the Center for Healthcare Services, for example, puts out a daily list of articles that they've collected around mental health. And I use it and I'm grateful for it. It really helps me to go through something quick and find some information that's helpful. And Doug can ride that little wave. I see his hands up. Doug?
Yeah, I wanted to make an announcement that I don't see Emma Alexander on this morning, but she's going to be taking a leave of absence from Bridges. Her father, she's going to be going to Sacramento to be with her father, who is, I know he's in his 90s. And so we're going to be needing to hire somebody to help fill that position. And when she comes back, we hope she'll come back to us. But so if anybody has somebody that they know that would be a good cohort developer for Bridges to Care, please send them our way. That's
And
go ahead.
this is a perfect lead in too for our conversation this morning. But Doug, could you describe, when you say a cohort developer, describe that to people, what that means?
So we work with clusters, if you will, or groups, cohorts of churches of anywhere from 5 to 6 or 7 churches that are geographically proximate, that are in the same neighborhood, that work together. So we help those form, and then we work with the leader in that cohort to help recruit people to come to Bridges to Care and to help sustain them. I mean, Peter, for example, who's on here now, Peter's one of our cohort leaders. So Emma works with the cohort leaders to help support them and to help them grow the number of people that are going through the Bridges to Care program, and basically help sustain the program. So that's what Emma does, and she does it extremely well. And we need another person to help do that.
So they can contact you, Doug, if anyone here is interested, or if they know of somebody, you would be the
Yes.
person to contact?
Yeah,
Okay.
contact me or Nuria. I don't see Nuria on this morning. Oh, there she is. She's on. So you can contact either Nuria or me. Probably better Nuria than me. But anyway, yes, we're hiring for that. And we're also expanding our warm line. And so we're looking for people who have good capability and capacity to help answer the phones for people who are calling for help and assistance. And this pre-crisis is not crisis help. So we're working with people to help navigate them either to resources or answer questions. So that's a second position we're hiring for. And again, they can contact me. But it's been one of the best things that NAMI has done. It has opened up the portal, if you will. So often people are used to thinking about calling when there's a crisis. We want them to call before there's a crisis, so that we can help navigate them either to classes or to sometimes just visit with people and help them understand what's happening in their life or their family member's life.
So what you're really talking about too is creating more community, around people, and connectivity and support systems that maybe someone won't even get to that crisis because they're in community and they're healing. And yeah. So are those positions, so Emma's and the call line, are those paid positions or are they volunteers?
Oh, no, they're paid positions and they're full-time, but we also can accommodate people who want to work on a part-time basis. And we want to continue in bridges. We want to continue our emphasis on working on the east side and the west side. So people that have relationships and contacts in both those areas in San Antonio, those are prime candidates for us to come aboard and work with us.
Well, this is a perfect lead in. Thank you, Doug, for that important work. And that's one of the things too that we talked last week about the newsletter. That's one of the things of having some form of communication. We can help people even find jobs, right? Fill positions. It's part of the communication and building this collaborative work. And it's a really good lead in for what I want to talk about today. And yes, you have me. I tried to get a couple other people, but they were already booked for this morning. So you got me, and again, but we'll have others come like we always have, but today it's me. So I wanted to share with you in the same vein that we're talking about what's been happening in terms of collaborative work when it comes to affordable housing. So we have had folks here in the past from Neighborhood and Housing Services Department in the city. We've talked about the SHIP, which is the Strategic Housing Implementation Plan of the city, and the strategies and the work that is happening in terms of creating affordable housing. And so that's all still happening, but we have had along the way for a period of time now, I would say close to 2 years in my memory, we have had housing via faith community collaborative, that what are the gaps and what could be filled? And there's been some real movement lately, and there are also some needs. And so I wanted to talk about those so that we can start getting the word out and begin helping with that. So first of all, I want to give a name of a book, and I know I've mentioned this before, and it's called Gone for Good with a question mark after good. Gone for Good with that upswing on the end there. But it's actually the chapters are written by different people. So Elsden, I think is Mark's last name. He's the editor. He brought those articles together into a book, but very much brand new out in this last month, but very much a primer in terms of what is happening across the country with congregations closing down or trying to figure out, perhaps with a smaller group of people, what they could be doing in the world and what some are doing. But so it's really talking about, I guess it's a wave, or I don't want to call it a trend, but something that's happening on a national scale, defining that and looking at it and what is going on and what's the potential. And so Mark's whole take, the author, the editor, is, is there some way, if a congregation is like feeling like it's gone, is there some way to be about things in the world for the good, right? And the earliest name for the faith-based initiative out of the city was In the City for Good. That's where we started, but you didn't know that some of you'd have to go back into 7 years of time, but that we were talking with congregations about being in the city for good, not leaving, doing good things and meeting those needs of the most vulnerable. So anyway, I wanted to bring you up to speed of what has been happening in that regard. Other places are also, of course, as I've mentioned, they've been experiencing this. And there are a lot of builds and refits that are happening across the country in congregations. So where a congregation has property that's not being utilized, either just open acreage, or it might be a very large parking lot that nobody parks on hardly anymore. And so there are examples across the country of people who have built different things, affordable housing for seniors. Maybe it's transitional housing for those who don't have permanent housing in their life. And so those things are happening, and those things are happening in San Antonio. We have some examples of that happening. The St. John's Seminary, which is just south of downtown, and it sits on the river, and it was a place, obviously, a seminary, but where people went, young men in particular, went and for their education. And this happened several years ago, and they did a refit. And so the buildings that were there were made into housing, but they also had open property, and they built affordable housing on the property as well. They are somebody can help me with the term, but part of it is rented. There are various levels of income and various levels of rent and things. So it does several different things. So that's one example. We've also had more recently, I want to say Northridge, North Park. I wish I could remember which one it is, but it's off of Sunset, and not far from Broadway. But they had a vacant parking lot and went through a discernment process and ended up creating a green space there for their community. They created a park because they decided that that's what that particular community really needed, was green space. So people are doing different things in this process, but we're engaging that. And so how that's being engaged, and this is all really coming together right now in the last month, that and we're getting more and more phone calls, by the way, into the city from congregations who are trying to figure these things out, or they're asking for help because of their property being in need. And we point some of them, as Peter Onfray was pointed, into the federal grant opportunity to help with the security aspects of their site, which also could mean like new windows and safety at doors and things like that. So that is already happening. People coming forward. We have an organization in town called Good Acres, and you can Google that, Good Acres. And they're doing some great work, like that green space park that was planted. They helped that congregation figure out what they wanted to do and needed to do for their community. So to plant in place, right? In that proximity, much like Doug talks about the cohorts that are organized with congregations and geographical proximity. So part of that process is figuring that out. So Good Acres does that. They help that process. And then that's the process is then in partnership with the Faith Initiative, but in partnership with Neighborhood and Housing with the city. They are then connected with San Antonio Housing Trust, which is obviously kind of one of the next steps is, about funding. How does that get put together to help whatever that development or those needs might be? So what I'm trying to describe to you is this kind of process, very collaborative across the entire geography, but a process that is connected with different organizations to walk by side and with a congregation and figuring out that future. I hope I'm making sense, because where I really want to head is how the community can help on a very large scale. So what I want to share with you, so I'm going to share a screen. You do know, this should make instant sense to you, but you do know that we are already in and entering into what could be the largest stream of skilled volunteers that we've ever seen in the United States. Thanks to the boomers in the world, right? And you don't have to go far to know an example of such, and that would be sacred.org. So Billy and Bill helped put all that together, highly skilled tech gurus who are so committed to San Antonio and community that basically, for real, sacred.org was built by San Antonians for San Antonians and out of volunteer, soul commitment to this place. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about, expanding that kind of opportunity in our city. And so I wanted to show you what's on the screen is some work that the Housing Collaborative has been working on over these last months, is breaking down when a congregation is thinking about entering this kind of process or wanting to do it, feeling like, and there are some out there who really are feeling like called to do it. They have a mission in mind, and they want to go for it, but they don't know how, right? So this idea of teams, navigation teams, highly skilled volunteer navigation teams isn't new. I heard about this idea when I went and I visited Interfaith Colorado. And this was some years ago, and I met those folks at a Pathways to Hope, but they developed a team process. And set up different kinds of teams that walk alongside congregations to help them figure these things out. And, we kind of made up the titles, and there might be more steps and more teams that need to form. And there could be, for example, multiple discovery teams. There could be 6 discovery teams of 6 people each, but they could be working, each of them with 2 or 3 congregations, right? So we could multiply the work and the capacity, because like Good Acres, that helps people in this discovery discernment part, they can only help 2 or 3 congregations at a time because of the number of people that they have working on the process. So there's a discovery team, and we tried to create the collaborative, like job positions, like what's needed. And we put the purpose in there and everything. And we've been trying to think of what kind of folks would want to apply to be a part of that kind of thing. What might they have done in their very active career that they could put some of those skills to work again for good, and then what kind of folks in terms of the development team and what kind of skills might they need. But these would be teams that would be working with congregations. And see, we haven't filled them all out yet. We're still working on the process. And what kind of things would they have done maybe in their life that would really help congregations to move forward. So I'm coming in for the end run here, and I know Art, your hand is up and we're coming there, but what we're looking to do at this moment right now is to start creating this discovery and discernment team. This very first thing at the top. We've also found some tools. One is called, I'm not going to remember the whole name, the Enterprise Faith Community something, but they walk along and they have a whole training program, and they work with congregations. And so we're looking at having these discovery teams learn how to do that from Enterprise. Then there's another one that's called Good Futures. They also have a process, and the Faith Initiative is investing in that process. That process is going to be able to help 8 congregations in San Antonio go through a process. The enterprise model, there's similarities to them, but different. The enterprise model can help 4 to 5. So we would be able to help in the very near future about a dozen. maybe a baker's size dozen, maybe 13. So we're also looking to then multiply even that effort by creating this team. So this team would be doing things like group facilitation with that information, right? And they would, critical thinking skills. They would need to be people who are good listeners and helping people discern and make decisions. So, we've put down some, who most likely would apply, what we think, right? But we'd love to add things to this list. But you, and you might know others in your organizations or your congregations that would really appreciate being a part of this kind of community service. It's volunteer service, but it is service to the community and using the skills that you carry. And I know, I wish Bill was with us, and maybe Billy can speak to this, but I do know for Bill Neely how important this has been to the quality and purpose of his life. He talks about that. He openly shares what all this has meant to him with sacred.org. And so in one sense, we're offering that kind of opportunity to others to feel a depth of service maybe they haven't thought about or didn't know existed. But we're wanting to put together at least one team. And I think that team needs to be at least 3 people and maybe 6. And we could even put together 2 of those teams. So we could have a team of 6 and a team of 3 or a team of 4 each, or we could do that. That would then work directly with Good Acres, the folks in San Antonio who help congregations already. You'd be working with them, but you would also be learning these processes from the enterprise organization as well as Good Futures. And you would be working with congregations and walking with them. Both Enterprise and Good Futures says that this process takes about 7 months of kind of conversations and working together for a congregation to either decide, we can't do anything like that, whatever. Or they become very specific. They want to build 8 units to help young men who are transitioning out of foster care. And we've got a congregation in town doing that, Abundant Life, and they're on Lord Road. And they are in that process and that build. It's very exciting. Unlike other things that are being created, say through SHIP, which might be like large apartment complexes, things like that. These tend to be smaller, things that exist. But also in that process, the smaller does help create more community. And there's just so many ways it can be done. So I'm going to quit talking at 8:28. I'm going to stop myself like I normally stop others, and we're going to take a pause and tell people thank you who need to leave. And I'm grateful for the 23 who showed up with late notice. And but that I'm grateful that you're here. And I will be back at full work on Tuesday. And so I'll let you know sooner next week about who will be showing up. But I wanna open up the conversation around this that I've been talking about. If you have other ideas or questions or thoughts, none of this is a done deal, right? We're growing into it, and we're doing that as community and through collaboration. So ideas. Arthur now has his hand raised. Thank you, Arthur, for being so faithful and patient with me. Arthur, what's up? Are you there? Let me look. I don't know if your mic is open. Let's see. Nope, he took his hand down maybe.
While Arthur is coming in, I just wanted to share that the documents that Anne was discussing are in the chat box, as well as the Good Acres Roundtable registration link to attend their March 23rd meeting, and the Gone for Good book summary that Anne was talking about. It's in the chat.
Thank you, Sonia. And I really do encourage you to go to the roundtable once. You don't have to like commit forever, but to see community coming together like that at the round table. It's led by Good Acres. Sarah Woolsey is the person who leads that. And it's been supported throughout this last year by the HEB Family Foundation. And you may know of their current work and helping congregations to become more mental health ready, but also connecting the community. So it's a really great example too of like philanthropy being a part of these kind of collaborations. So really encourage you to go to one of the roundtables just to experience it. I know you'll be energized no matter what kind of work you do. And what another thing, being the age that I am, but that one of the things I love about the roundtable is its diversity. There are younger people, people that look, you know, a variety of people and how we look together. It really gives me a lot of hope when I go to the round table, just to be in the midst of that kind of energy and that body of people. And it changes every month. I mean, there would be new people. And so even the conversation kind of takes a different tone because there are then new people, right? And so basically what they're doing is coming together and co-laboring together. So looks like Arthur shared something in a file. So thank you for that. I'm going to look at chat. Thoughts? You can just open up your mic if you want to jump in. Well, thank you, Jackie. Very exciting work. It is very exciting. We got some tours and others. Here's the round table. And this document. One question I want to ask you all to help with kind of an answer figuring out is how do we get the word out more? So we can take this example this morning as an example. It's not the only one, but looking for folks like this, how do we best get that word out? Any ideas? The pregnant pause.
Just jumping in here, the one thing that jumps out at me is using organizations that are already communicating to organizations and other groups like United Way, like making sure that that's part of the United Way helpline, you know, because people can call for volunteer opportunities or to sit on boards so that they could get more engaged in these opportunities throughout the city. And I would say also then through all the public services and other organizations, and it may mean banners on websites or little flyers or some other things along that line that would help if we could put things in front of polling places, you know, that would push people to Sacred or into, you know, where information would be about these activities. I think that would be a refreshing sign for voters, you know, that their tax dollars are at work and here's some of the ways that they can be helped and what we could do. Just throwing out some ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sorry, I've got to run.
It's okay. Thanks for that. And Jackie's got her hand up. Go, Jackie.
there are a couple of other things I was thinking of. So I went through the Master's Leadership Program a few years ago and thinking about how can we present some of these ideas, get on the schedule, if you will, of the learning sessions at Master's Leadership Program. They have, I don't know whether you're familiar with their curriculum, but they you know, bring people to a lot of different you know, understanding days where you have understanding of different areas of nonprofit work in the city. And it just feels like there's somehow maybe an opportunity for that, because that's an exposure to people who are going to commit to to working with nonprofits. The other thing that it just keeps mulling in my head as I'm listening to this is, at least for Methodist, thinking about, and maybe it's true for other denominations, also working through the conference for the Methodists to say, because there's a lot of change with a lot of churches having properties that, as you pointed out, that are in transition, and just thinking about how to also get the word out through those mechanisms, through the newsletter, the conference newsletters or other things like that. And maybe we're all connected to that, and I just don't know about it, but it just seems like another piece. And then a third piece for me, just in terms of both support and intersection with some of the things that are going on, is to try to get on the radar of Methodist Healthcare Ministries. I'm on their board, and there are a lot of pieces of work that are happening through them that feel like they intersect with this in particular. And I don't quite have in my head exactly how to get it on their radar, but even just one of the things I was thinking about is taking the recording from today and sending it to a couple of staffers that are working on things that intersect with this. But I think the board also would be open to hearing about it. I'm just not quite sure I understand the best way to insert myself in that process. It's a very formal process there.
But I thank you, Jackie, and you already kind of answered part of a question that I would ask you, because, having a connection with Methodist Healthcare, for example, or master leadership. And I know there are a couple people on here who've done master leadership. Right, there we go. But the best way to make connections are for people who already have connections. It's back to that relationship. So I love the fact, Jackie, that you're asking, I don't know exactly how to make the connection, but you're thinking. And at least I know with my life, if I think of one way to connect, I just follow that. Like, okay, I'm gonna call him, whoever him might be, right? And just start to make that contact and that conversation, and for the greater good, and that whatever connection any of us can make can help all of us down the road, so those are great things. We've been talking too about what can we do with communication to be smarter at it across the entire city. Another thing that we've been talking about is some sort of collaborative when it even comes to volunteers. And to be smarter at that, especially in the nonprofit world. There are volunteer systems, right? And nonprofits can actually, as they should, kind of hold on to their volunteers. It's kind of like the gold, right? The good stuff. But just think if there were some way to be a volunteer for San Antonio, and I don't mean the government. I mean that I'm volunteering for my community. Is there a way that we can kind of come into that kind of community feel as volunteers even? And then could there be a system like Sacred, but a system that people can engage? And we have, I know the Latter-day Saints have Just Serve. You can Google that, Just, J-U-S-T, Serve. And they harness volunteers from across the United States through that platform. So there are platforms too that are working that way. And it might not take much, but it could help everybody, from funders to people wanting to be volunteers to those nonprofits. How could we be a community that not just nurtures volunteerism, but also strengthens it? Which strengthens everybody's capacity. And as Billy Cox would say, it would raise all of our boats, all of the boats. Peter, your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. And first off, my condolences to the passing of your mom. You're her
Thanks.
legacy, and you're a great one.
Thanks. I couldn't hear anything better,
Mm.
but thank you.
And as far as this initiative, it's a wonderful initiative. Good Acres, that was next on my radar. I've been referred to them on this resiliency project, so I'm looking forward to connecting there. I think there's a great opportunity with neighborhood associations and homeowner associations, because on the Southwest side, we're preparing for the SA Tomorrow Southwest Community Plan. And so over the past almost a year now, I've been connecting with those neighborhood associations and preparing them for that opportunity so they can be a part of and be stakeholders in that process for that planning. I had the experience of being on the SA Tomorrow Port San Antonio Regional Plan, and it was a 3-year plan, and really connected with a lot of the community around us because our church was a part of it. And reaching out to those faith-based organizations in this plan is part of my work with the neighborhood associations, because many of them attend congregations, and that's where you find your connectivity to those people that are really engaged in community because they're part of a neighborhood association. Then they're also part of a faith community, so you can plug in there and then pull those resources in. And that's what I've been kind of working in that community there. So just another great opportunity to plug in to the collaborative work right at the heart of in the community and work that's already going on. And then you start to envision, what does your community look like? And what do we see in the next 20 years? And you're a part of that. And so very inspiring work, but it's very real work, because I've seen how then the bond funding will come along and other funding opportunities. And you can see how a vision that was started 5 years ago now has funding and it's moving forward. And I saw that, I've seen it myself in the work we did with the port. So yeah, but I love the concept of how we produce those volunteer work connectors and build more collaboratives in specific parts of the city where it's, and right now the Southwest community isn't like the East Side where they're very collaborative on the East Side. The Southwest is very fractured. And so we're looking to really bring that together here soon.
So that would also be a good direction to work more together and then building that. I love that idea, and it's been used before and I had forgotten. So thank you. But the neighborhood associations and neighborhood and housing services, they have the list of the neighborhood associations and the connections. And so we can use that in the collaborative work to get the information out. Thank you for that reminder. And in fact, that was one way that Compassionate San Antonio came into being, was intentional engagement with neighborhood associations that way. And there's like an annual gathering of neighborhood associations. So, folks who are working on Compassionate San Antonio strategically attended that. And so there's a strategy. Thank you, Peter. Randy. There you go.
There we are. We have a church bulletin, and I was just thinking, how can I get in a efficient way this information to the people that put that in whenever it comes up in one of these meetings. Now, by the time we have this meeting on a Thursday, it's already put to bed for that week. But if I can just, and there's another lady from my church that's on this most of the time, and I'm going to ask her to help me keep our eyes on it so that we can put the important things, because we have an enormously service-oriented church. I know you know that, Anne. And to put something out there that people don't know about just gives them a great opportunity to expand their personal ministry and whatever that is.
Which also brings us back to the communication, conversation. How can we all better communicate? But it does remind me too about putting the same information out, but putting it out in a way that it's easier, more efficient for congregations to cut and paste and put into a newsletter, or, or put it into the bulletin for that week. And so to be able then to put that out into a larger communications that people can pull and pick from, And the other thing that I've found with things like that is you can't cover everything and you got to make it brief. We were talking about those collections of articles at the very beginning of this today. How brief and to the point, how long the read or the watch is. And here's the link, and this is what it's about. So you can't put everything in, but having different ways that the people can get the information. So it's here in print, but there's a link to this recording. So, there's another way that people can link to the information because people respond to information in different ways. And so having a couple ways to receive it is also very helpful. So thanks for that. I'm making notes of all of this. So, and it is 8:46. I've gone over my own minute. So, it's great to see all of you, dear friends, and thank you for being at the intersection this morning. And I'll be back in San Antonio soon. And it's just good that we're doing this work.
Yes.
Yep, it's good. It's good for each of us and all of us. So, in the city for good. Thanks again. You have great weekends, and I think I see a little bit of snow on some leaves outside the window. What? It better be a little. I moved to Texas because of snow. Don't tell many people that, but I'm not a fan. Talk to you soon. Bye.